campaigning, and one does not want to see it all go to waste by some peculiarities with the count. Now, Mr. McCulloch has told us about these machines where anyone can walk in with a USB key and change the results. We have a check and balance against that in theory. That check and balance is that you call for a recount. And when you call for a recount, out should come a box from a precinct, and in that box should be a number of ballots that match what's on that machine. So it's very easy to stick a USB key in a machine, but it's a little harder to go change all the ballots. Not impossible. Now, one way you could change all the ballots, of course, is you could sit around and you could wait and see if anyone calls for a recount. And then if they called for the recount, you could reach into some room upstairs or somewhere else. You could pull out a big pile of blank ballots and you could sit down and you could make sure the count came out all right. Now, the facts, which have been relayed to me endlessly over the past 2 years, are as follows. Delia Lopez ran for Congress. Delia Lopez has the name Lopez. Now, it's a fact about human beings that they like to vote for people who are like them. And so there are some precincts in Portland with people like Delia, or with names like Delia. And Delia advertised very heavily on the Spanish language network and so forth and so on. And she expected to pick up some votes in those precincts because Lopez sounded a lot more familiar to them than Blumenauer. Lo and behold, in these precincts, she had astoundingly low votes. Okay? So she said, all right, I'll call for a recount. So she calls for a recount. I believe it was on December 3rd. And guess what was scheduled to happen that day on December 3rd? On December 3rd that day, the AccuShred company was scheduled to show up and destroy all the blank ballots. The AccuShred got a call from Multnomah County Elections saying, you can't destroy the blank ballots. We don't want you to destroy them. We're having a recount. Now, I have asked people who are knowledgeable about this process why would be the legitimate reason for having blank ballots in a recount. No one can provide any answer. So the ballots were not shredded. The recount was duly conducted. Delia tried to outsmart them by the day of the recount, saying, why don't you just pull these other 5 or 6 boxes over here? We'll change the precinct numbers. Oh, no, can't do that. Got to do the boxes you identified 10 days in advance or whatever, because, you know, that's the way the process works. And there are so many things that are wrong with this process that you wouldn't believe it. I mean, these things are sealed with these seals that I think you can probably peel off. Nobody signs the seals like they're supposed to. You know, there's no controls at all. There's all kinds of interesting facts we uncovered. There's an elaborate electronic system for who goes into what room and who has this cards, except there's a bunch of access cards that don't have any names attached to them. And the people going into the rooms are not correlated with the people coming out of the rooms. And so this elaborate security system, upon close examination, utterly worthless. So when I was called back in 2010 about this, I opened up the law books and I came across an interesting little statute. I think it's ORS 254-483 sub 1. It says, and I quote to the best of my ability, immediately after 8 p.m. on election night, the county clerk shall destroy all unused regular and absentee ballots. Pretty simple. Pretty simple rule, but he's not doing it, and he's never done it. And when people have complained about it, oh, we can't do that. We have to be able to duplicate the ballots. We can't possibly count any ballots by hand, and they have all kinds of really inventive excuses. But I don't think any of them make any sense at all. So anyway, I was hoping that someone else would step forward and do this, just like I was hoping that somebody else would run for Attorney General. And that didn't happen. So I went ahead and filed a lawsuit. It's a simple little lawsuit. I think the memo is like 3 or 4 pages long. It's, this is the law. They're not doing it. They should have to do it. And so we've asked for a writ of mandamus. We've asked for an injunction. I've tried to cover all the procedural bases, because those of you who may have been following the little extravaganzas in Clackamas County about the bond that wasn't and so forth and so on, you know that you can walk into court with a perfectly simple argument, and there are 50 different ways the court can go, oh, no, that's not the wrong rock. You know, I wanted a big rock. And you come in with the big rock. No, I wanted a big blue rock. And you come in with the big blue rock. And no, I wanted a big blue rock made out of granite. You know, so forth and so on. So we've tried to cover those bases in the lawsuit. I can't predict what will happen. The way the lawsuit is working is that tomorrow or the next day I will hear from our Attorney General, my opponent, with some bunch of pious garbage about what the law doesn't mean what it says. And then on October 5th, I will file a reply. And on the morning of October 5th, we will go over to Multnomah County where they have something that we call the cattle call, where you stand in the courtroom and they decide which judge is going to hear the case. We merely know that it will be on October 8th, or at least that's what they said so far. Now, sometimes these things change. As you go in there and it's when nobody's available to hear it until the 12th, or how about the day after the election? Who knows what will happen? But hopefully on October 5th, we will have a judge, we will have a courtroom, and people can come and watch. And of course, I would like it very much if people came and watched. Because politics is all about holding people accountable. And we, as a people, have totally failed to do that in a manner that should embarrass us to our children. That's what's going on. We will see whether I come back with my shield or on it on October 8th. The Clackamas County people didn't do so well. Maybe I can hope that we have men of higher integrity in Multnomah County. But as Theodore Roosevelt once said, at the time of the twilight and decline of the Roman Republic, all the laws were the same as they ever were. But what had changed was the people. And when the people changed, it didn't matter what the laws were. So I would ask you, all of you, in a partisan way, nonpartisan way, to get out there and get us some good people who can read law. Thank you.
Lawsuit, an election integrity lawsuit. Wanted to drill into this and find out what happened.
Well, there's a statute in Oregon that says immediately after 8 p.m. on election night, the county clerk shall destroy all unused absentee and regular ballots. It's been a part of Oregon law for decades, the idea that is on election night, we want to get rid of all the blank ballots so there's not a temptation around for people who want to adjust the votes over time.
Okay. Must
Problem. The next sentence of the law said that the county clerk shall provide for the security of and account for the unused ballots. And the judge said, well, gosh, I don't know how you provide for the security of something and account for it after you destroy it. So I think the statute's in conflict, and I don't know how to interpret it, and gosh, we should just let the Secretary of State do whatever they want.
So this is, now did you file suit, or was it someone in connection with your campaign filing suit?
I was the lawyer, and there were 4 election integrity, people who were interested in election integrity who were the plaintiffs.
Okay. And so the judge basically said, don't worry about that pesky stack of blank ballots that are sitting in there in the election offices after 8 o'clock. No big deal, nothing to see here.
Nothing to see here, move along. It's just depressing. The government is always right, I mean, whatever they say, that's how you become a judge, the government is always right.
Okay, so what happens now at this point? Are there appeals processes?
Well, there could be an appeal, but the legislature in its infinite stupidity has declared that citizens who dare to challenge this sort of thing may have to pay the legal expenses of the government, and it looks like the government, on account of this one-day hearing, is going to claim some $20,000 or maybe $40,000 in attorney fees, and the people who are involved, I don't think, can afford to take the risk of that. So I think we'll just have to give up and go home with our tail between our legs and go back to the legislature and say, well, if you guys care about election integrity, you have to change the statute so it says immediately after 8 p.m. on election night, destroy all the unused ballots, and prior to that time, maintain their security.
Now, see, that would seem
and
to be...
account for them. Because the other thing that went on is they whined and complained for about 2 hours of how there was occasionally there are people who show up at the elections office at 7:59 and 59 seconds without a ballot or anything.
Okay.
And gosh, if the shredding company that were there at 8, these 10 or 20 people would be deprived of their right to vote. You can fix that too. But again, it all comes down to whether you have government officials who are acting with common sense and are willing to, interpret the statutes in a reasonable way, or whether you have, these pod people from the planet government who think that everything that the government does is just right all the time, no matter what.